Hey, it's Chris Doherty, Doherty Properties, and I want to talk through the exciting process of getting your property listed to go to market. And I want to just summarize the steps so you have a full understanding and to appreciate how this process works from beginning to end. So you can look at this and say, okay, I have a full understanding of what this process is going to be like. The first thing that we do is we put together a market analysis on the subject property. And we do a lot of research and gather a lot of information so we have a good sense of your particular property. The first thing we do is we're going to research the tax records of the property. We're going to review the deed of your property. We're going to look up if there are any easements or anything that could be impacting your property that is publicly recorded. So we get a lot of information and data together before we meet with you to go over the listing process. And then we put together a comparable analysis. We call it comparative market analysis in real estate, where we put together a report to show you what homes that are close to yours, similar size, similar bedroom, similar bath, what they're selling for, so we can get to a range of what you think your property is worth. When we come out to the house, we'll go over that report, and then we're going to sign paperwork that is going to go through the legal components of what we need to get your home sold. That's going to be a contract with an exclusive right to sell. That term is typically a 6-month period of time. We're going to have an agency disclosure signed, which lets you know that we're a listing agent for you, that we're working on your behalf. We're going to have you sign an escrow notification form that just lets you know and all the parties know how the funds are handled in a transaction, because we take escrow money that's up front. And then we're going to go through lead paint documents that go through the status of the lead paint in your home. And so after we go through that process and we have an understanding of price, and then we go through the legal documents so that we can get your home ready, we go through 2 components to get your house sold. There's a marketing component that we have to handle, and there's a legal component that we have to handle in terms of the transaction and the paperwork. When we get your home ready for sale, we're going to send you the photo shoot ready guide, which is going to tell you what we are hoping that you will do. So when our professional photographer comes out, the home is ready for the photo shoot, okay? We're going to make sure that the photos are in the best condition possible. That's why we want professional photography, to make sure that your home is showing the best light. If you have a home that is right for it, we'll do drone photography as well. So we'll have the regular homes that you see. We'll also have drone photography. And the photos that we take, we load into a system, so there will be a video walkthrough of the home that we're listing for you. Okay, so once we have the photos ready, and once we have the marketing components down, our team gets together legally to load the documents in the information into the multiple listing for you. We're going to send you a questionnaire that asks you a lot of questions about your home, which is going to help us with that process as well. So we'll have the photos ready. You'll answer a lot of questions about your home, the type of roof you have, the type of electrical system you have in your house, whether your hot water heater is gas or electric, the things you love about your house, the things that you think would be a great selling feature for the client. And we're going to get all that data, and that's going to go into the multiple listing. So we're going to have great photography that goes into multiple listing. We're going to have a lot of information about the house that you've provided with things you really like about the home. And we're going to get that process ready to go so that when we get onto the multiple listing, it is representing the house in the very best way possible. Okay. Now, after we're into the MLS, we're going to go live on the property. And when we do that, the property is going to be distributed to every major third-party real estate site that exists. You're going to get maximum exposure. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're aggressively pushing the property on social media. And we're going to ask that you share that to your social media networks as well. The third thing we're going to do is aggressive email blasting to potential buyers in the market that we have identified from previous open houses and inquiries who might be a good fit for your home. We're going to call through all of the agents and brokers in the market because we have tools that can help us identify agents that have clients that might be a good fit for your home. We're going to push you on YouTube and video channels so that people who are searching for more of that visual experience, that we're going to be there to make sure that we can capture that lead so they can see your property. We're going to be aggressive about marketing. We're going to push potentially for an open house if it makes sense for you, so that we can get as many people in the door as possible. Okay? This is an exciting time. This is the moment where we're really trying to showcase this beautiful property that you've had to as many potential buyers as possible, with the goal to try to make as much money as we can on the asset, so that you as the seller feel great and the buyer feels good, because when they go into the home, they feel like that process has been handled the right way. Now, we're going to give you updates on the property. We're going to follow the number of views that are happening on the third-party sites, the number of showings that are going to happen. We're going to follow up to see if we can get feedback from the people who viewed it, so we can give that data to you so that we can make decisions about what to do with the property. Now, at some point, we're going to get an accepted offer. Someone is going to offer on this process, and this is that legal transaction part. They're going to give that to us in a written form. We do not allow a non-written offer on a property. We require that people put that in writing. We require that everybody has a pre-approval from a lender, where the lender puts in writing that they have looked at the buyer's credentials, they have looked at their credit, they've looked at their income, and at least at this stage, it's not a commitment, but at least at this stage, they feel comfortable that this is a viable buyer. We're going to get the offer or offers, and we're going to put them together, and then we're going to come with you and have a meeting, usually through telephone or Zoom or face-to-face if that's what you prefer, and then we're going to go over the offers. And we're going to look at the price of the offer, but also the terms of the offer, to try to select what we think is the best offer for your home. Okay? Now, this can be a stressful process because you've done so much work getting the house ready. There's been all of this energy into getting it cleaned up, getting things fixed and repaired, being out of the house for open houses and showings, and there's a lot of activity that happens. So it's very natural to feel a high level of stress. What we want to do is take that stress off you as much as we can. And when we come to you with those offers, we try to make it easy, and we go through and we'll provide recommendations for you on what we think are the best offers. But inevitably, it's up for you to decide who you think is the best fit based on the price, the terms, and your overall feeling for who you think that buyer should be. Once we accept that offer, normally there's a new process, a legal and a transaction process that we have to go through. There could be an inspection in this process where the buyer will come with a home inspector that they choose, and they can go over really any and every aspect of the home. They can look at the foundation, the roof, the siding, the windows. They can test your water. They could test your house for radon. They potentially could test your house for lead, but usually we have a disclosure on that up front. But a buyer with a home inspection is going to go through and inspect your home, okay? And then after that inspection, they're usually going to come for a negotiation to either repair or potentially a price reduction on the home. And this is pretty standard in every home. Now, we've been in a market lately where there's been fewer home inspections, but as things start to stabilize in the market, we're starting to see more home inspections happen. But that's a good thing because it gives the buyer an opportunity to know what's happening with your home. But they're likely to come back to you with some requests for repairs or price reduction. So you always have to be thinking up front, if I got this price and I have a home inspection, then it's likely there might be another renegotiation on the sale price to keep the deal together. Once we get through that home inspection, we're going to go to the purchase and sales agreement. And the purchase and sales agreement is a greater formalization of the transaction. The offer is a short 2-page document. The purchase and sales can be anywhere from 5 to 15 pages, depending upon the addendum and the rider. But we're really just laying out in greater terms the transaction between the parties. At this point, we have a lawyer engaged handling the purchase and sale negotiation for you. That could be of your choosing, or we could recommend somebody for you if you need that. But that is a transaction process where the lawyers are going back and forth over language to try to protect the seller and the buyer, and they're working to come to a final form. When they come to a final form, the lawyer will usually call you to go over that with you, to say, hey, this is where I'm at. Is there anything that you want to add, or is there anything that you are concerned about? Okay. Once that purchase and sale is negotiated by the lawyers, we'll sign it, and then the buyer will usually give a second escrow check deposit. The first check, where we are in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, is typically $1,000. The second check is usually a much larger amount than that, and it could be anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 all the way up to 5%. It depends on what the client is offering. We get that check and we hold that in escrow. That's a good faith deposit to say, hey, we're pretty serious about buying this home. Once we get through the P&S, we get that second check, we're normally going to be dealing with a mortgage contingency. So the deal isn't solid. Yes, we had that initial pre-approval, and that was a good thing, but we don't have a commitment from a bank until we have a commitment. So the buyer is working with the lender all this time, and they're going through this process of trying to secure the loan, okay? And then during this process, we're going to likely have an appraisal of the property. Now, the buyer will pay for that, and the appraiser will come out, and they're trying to see not the value of your home per se, they want to make sure that the value of the loan meets the house. So it's very often that the appraiser meets the sale price of the property. They don't usually go way over. It's not a value analysis like that. They're really going to say, hey, to the bank, we think this home is worth this, and we're comfortable at this number, so the bank can make a decision that they're funding a loan on a property that they think meets that value, okay? Now, if the appraisal comes back low, we might have to go through a renegotiation, or your deal could be dead, or the buyer could come up with the money. This is another piece that we'll have to work through depending upon the particular circumstances. But once the appraisal is done and the buyer is continuing to work forward to get their loan in place, we'll come to the financing commitment deadline. And our hope and our goal at that point is that the buyer has a commitment. They have a commitment, and the commitment is that they can get the loan and buy your house. Once we have that commitment in place, we are feeling really good. There's always some hiccups that could happen because you're not done until you close, but now we know, okay, we're in good shape. This is the time that you start to feel comfortable to get movers, get the next step in process. Now, this is usually 7 to 10 days before the closing date, before we know for sure. But once we get that commitment, that's the bank telling us we are committed to giving this loan. And then within, usually 3 to 7 days before the closing, the bank will give us what they call a clear to close, okay? Now, there's some guidelines that have to happen that are called TRID guidelines. I won't get into all that detail with that right now, but essentially the clear to close is what we want to hear. That's when the bank says, we are done. We gave a commitment. We're ready to go. Schedule the time to close. And they will tell the lawyers, and the lawyers will now schedule a time. Now, when we go to the closing, we are normally going to go to the buyer's attorney's office. That is pretty standard. And before we go to the closing, usually 72 hours or less, could be 42, depending on where you are in your move out, the buyers are going to do a final walkthrough of the property. And they're going to come and they're going to likely expect this to be what we call broom clean condition, okay? They're going to want everything out of there. They're not going to want you to leave the stuff that you didn't want. They want everything out. They want the paint out. They want the siding extra out. They want the extra tile out. They want all of these things out unless we agree otherwise. If there's no agreement that everything should be out of the house, those tires that you loved but you can't use anymore, they don't want them. Those toys that you had and you think they could be great for the next person, they don't want them. Absent an agreement, the house has to be broom clean. That means nothing left. So when the buyers come to the walkthrough, they go through and they look at that. Now, my advice to you is don't go by the standard of broom clean. go by the standard of professional cleaning. Make it look good, make it smell good, make the buyer happy. So when they go to the final walkthrough, they say, you know what, these sellers cared about this house and they care about me as a buyer. And that makes the transaction go so much smoother as we go to closing. Once we complete that phase, then we go to the lawyer's office and we sign those documents, which are the closing documents. Now, when you sign, your house is not sold, okay? You are close. You have signed, the buyer has signed, and now the lawyers will do what we call a legal recording of your deed. And that is, they will do the official transfer of the deed. The money will be wired from the buyer to the seller in escrow, and then the property is transferred and you have sold your home. Okay, that's an overview of how the listing process works. And there are other details in the middle, but these are the big pieces of it so that you have a sense from beginning to end, from, pre-offer to getting the market analysis, getting the house ready, to all the way to the end of the final walkthrough to closing. This is what we're looking forward to, okay? I hope this information helps, and I look forward to seeing you soon.